Welcome back guys, GTS Garage. Today slightly different. We're not going to be putting any more of the bike together. We're going to look at the pre-checks. If you're going to buy a bike, these are the things that you should be looking at and things to be aware of as you go and look for bikes. The one thing that won't be covered right from the beginning is HPI. And the reason that is because you should be doing that. If you're not buying a bike from a garage, you should be doing an HP clear check on the bike. They cost about £19.99 each, so you don't want to do too many of those. You should do these pre-checks first, and if you're happy with the condition of the bike and the price the bike is being sold at, then do an HP clear after that. Okay guys, basically to accompany this video I'm going to put this form on that you can download and use for your own. Now these are all the checks that I'm going to do, and as we go our way through the bike and I show you which checks I'm going to make, I'm going to give each one a score, whether it's going to be good, average, or it's going to be poor. Now the most important part of this is to work out how much the bike is worth to begin with. So what I would suggest is if you go to www.wisebuyer.co.uk and put in the model of the bike that you're looking at purchasing, it's going to give you about 5 different costs, of which 3 are going to be private buy good, private buy average, private buy poor, and they mean the condition of the bike. That will give you 3 prices. So my example bike is going to be a Honda Varadero 125, and I know that a private buy in good condition will be £950. If it's an average condition it will be £750, and if it is poor it will be £400. Now if you go to that website and you put in the bike that you're looking at, it will give you those 3 scores. So as you go through and you check these pre-checks are made and you average them out onto either a good, average or poor, you're going to build up a picture of the overall bike at the bottom. So when you come down to when you've finished all the checks, you should be able to look at it and work out where the majority is, and if the majority are average, £750 is about right for that bike. If there are aspects that are poor, you need to be reducing it, so it would be between 400 for a poor bike and 750 for an average bike. So this will give you this will tell you if the bike is good, and this will kind of tell you if the bike is worth the money and where you should be aiming at offering. Okay, the other side of this is if you get a list of poors down there and he's only charging 400, it's no good trying to barter over 400 because he knows it's poor. That's why he's only offering 400 quid. That's why he's asking £400 for it. If he's asking the full amount, if you're going to pay 950 and the bike is all poor down the complete length, then you've got some bargaining room. But the idea isn't to stiff the seller. The idea is to offer him a reasonable price for a reasonable product, but in the meantime not shafting yourself and ending up having to pay lots of money just to get a bike that's worthy of the road. Okay, so tool wise you are going to need, or tool wise what would make this easier is a second pair of hands. So if you've got a friend to go with you, please take him along because it will make the bike experience a whole lot easier. The other thing you're going to need is a tyre depth gauge, because that is going to tell you how deep the tyres are. Everything else is kind of torch. You'll need a torch, and you will need a rag, just a piece of tissue to wipe down the oil. The next checks are going to be, looking at this, is the engine chassis number. It's most important that you find the chassis number on your bike. You can do that through a Google search and it will tell you exactly where it is, and make sure that that corresponds with the log, the V5 log that you have. If it doesn't, don't touch it with a barge pole. The frame, the engine needs to correspond with that log number to make sure. Okay guys, right. Once you're on site with the bike, first of all, first thing to do is just take a walk around it and look around for the condition of the outside. So you're looking at fairing, you're looking at the tyres, you're looking at the general overall condition of the bike. If the bike is in good condition, then mark it down on your sheet as good. If it's in average condition, mark it as average, and if it's in poor condition, mark it as poor. Now for this sheet that I'm working on, I'm saying if there are scratches and scrapes it is average, if it is missing or broken it is poor. So if you just follow that, just take a walk around the bike and then note it down which one it is. Okay, so the next step guys is to take a look at the condition of the handles, the levers and the engine cases. So the handles, if it's had a fall or if it's been dropped or it's in an accident, these are going to be scuffed. Your levers, if they are not new, are going to be scuffed on the ends, and you're also going to have scuffing on the engine cases. So take a look on both sides of the bike and see if there are any scuffs. The next stage is to make sure that the keys come with the bike there should be 2 sets of keys and then maybe a spare. If there is, the same key should open or should switch the bike on. It should open the petrol tank and it should release the seat as well, so you can get underneath the seat. If there is more than one key, it means at some point either the petrol cap's been changed or the ignition's been changed. If the ignition has been changed, chances are the only reason why you would do that is if it had been stolen in the past. With the bike in neutral, turn the ignition on and check your lights are working. So they should be high beam, dipped and off. You should have an indicator left and an indicator right. If all of those are working, mark them on the sheet that they are working. Okay guys, once your lights have been checked, take your key, undo your petrol tank and shine a light in your petrol tank. And just make sure that it's nice and clean, it's not overly corroded. Okay, while sitting on the bike, the best thing to do now is to do a full steering lock. So what you need to do is take hold of the handles and you need to turn all the way to the left. The steering lock hits before the bars hit the tank. You centre them up, they should be work freely. You then switch it all the way to the, again, the bars hit the lock, the steering lock, before they hit the tank. Then bring them neutral again, or bring them to the middle again. The next thing to check is the brake fluids, front and rear, the level. So if you get a torch, just shine it on and it should be midway. You should see an upper and a lower line and it should be in the middle. That's the front one check. Let's take a look at the rear. Remember guys, you basically do this to both sides of the bike. At this point in time, I can't swing a cat in here, but you basically, whatever checks you do on this side, you also do on the other side. So we're going to start with the calipers. And the best thing to do is just shine a light around the calipers, and what you're doing is you're looking for leaks. You're looking for oil leaks or particularly corroded parts. This is fairly clean because I keep this one in good condition. You're then looking at the condition of the brake pads. Now you can access the pads, so if I was standing over there and looking down, I'll be able to shine a light down by the disc and it would tell me or show me how much wear and tear is on the existing pads. You then take a look at the disc, and what you're doing is you're looking for score marks on the disc where someone may have let their pads go down to the metal. If that is the case, what you'll end up with is scratches and grooves actually on the disc itself. You then go on to the other side and you're checking the sprocket, you're checking the health of the chain, make sure it's not rusty, it's not corrosive, and it spins freely. To be honest, the best way of doing these checks is a paddock stand. If you have a paddock stand, by all means put the bike up on the paddock stand, get help to do so. Put the bike on the paddock stand and then you have free access and you can actually turn the wheel. Okay guys, with the brakes done, now you've established the brakes, the next thing to do is just to check the health of the rims. This is a very easy test and all you're doing is just running your fingers along the rim all the way round, and what you're looking for is creases. So you're testing this side and the other side to make sure that it's clean. Okay guys, that's basically the test for the rims done. So we've tested the rims, we've looked at the disc pads, we've looked at the disc calipers, and we've looked at the disc brakes. We've also looked on the other side of the bike at the sprocket to make sure that the teeth on the sprocket aren't hooked. So they're looking like a dorsal fin of a dolphin. So what they should be is straight up and straight down. They shouldn't come like that. We've now marked the condition of all three of those, or four of those, whichever we've done, and we've marked those on the sheet. The fork test is fairly simple, and all we're doing is to make sure that they're not leaking any oil. And the best way to do it is just to pull the brake and push down, and what you're doing is artificially compressing the forks and let them come back up. The second test we need to be off the bike for, we will take a rag and we will wipe the forks on both sets, then we will get back on the bike and repeat the process. The reason we do the test twice is the first compress is going to get rid of any dirt that's built up around that rim, okay? So basically when you compress it just pushes that rim up the fork, and what it looks like is there is a residue there. We want to clear that first. So the first compress, we're going to push down, release all the dirt that's been built up around the edge of the dust seal, get rid of that and then redo it. It's also asked the seller if he minds you taking or sliding the dust seal up on the fork slightly, so you can have a look at the oil seal below. And the reason I would suggest doing that test, if you are allowed, is because it is not uncommon for people with leaky forks to actually put a wad of tissue paper underneath the dust seal, in which case when you do that compression test, no oil is going to be found on the fork. Okay guys, one of the last checks before you actually start the bike up is to take a look at the oil cap. Now basically the oil cap is going to tell you if there is water in the oil, and it's going to do that by having a white Vaseline type substance when you take the cap off. So take a cap, take a look. If it's still black, then you're fine. Okay guys, the last test to be done is the ignition. So we've deliberately kept the bike cold to do this test, and the reason we've done that is because if there are issues starting, this is when you are going to identify those issues. If when you arrive to test the bike, the gentleman or whoever is selling the bike has kept the engine warm, then walk away, let the engine cool down and arrange to come back in an hour. Do not buy a bike that you have not tested from cold. Otherwise, what can happen is there are a myriad of things that can be hidden by a warmed up bike. So the best thing to do is to let it go cold, come back and redo the test. So the final test on here would be to start the bike up and listen to it running. If it has trouble starting or it won't start, then that should warn you, or that should go some way of warning you off buying the bike. If it sounds rattly, or it sounds like it's got the tappets are going, or there's a tap in the engine, that again should be marked down as poor rather than average. So the other thing to do is once you've started the bike and the bike is running, just test the cut-off switch. If when you hit the cut-off switch, if the bike cuts out, that's basically the last of the tests. Now what we're going to do is just review what I have on here, and basically, so I'll just run through them. Basically the fairing, scratches, scrapes are average, missing or broken pieces are poor. In this instance there are no missing pieces, but there are scrapes, so I'm going to put average. The next one down is engine cases and bar ends clean, is average. Scratches or scrapes are poor. I'm going to say scratches and scrapes, but the bar ends and the engine coverings are clean, so I'm going to put average. So the next test is to spin the wheel or run your fingers along the rim to ensure that there are no bends in the rim and to ensure there are no creases in the rim. There aren't any dents, there aren't any creases, so I'm going to say it's smooth, so I'm going to say again it's average. Forks with brakes on, push down, so I've done that test. I wiped the oil or the debris from the forks, and then I recompressed the forks to see if there was oil there, and there was. So in this instance I've said oil or residue equals poor, so I'm going to mark that one poor. Steering lock, I was able to move it from completely side to side and it didn't hit the tank, which means that's fair, that's okay. There was no stiffness there, or there wasn't a jolt, it didn't click into place at any point, which normally means the bearings are good. So steering lock, steering stops prevent bars from hitting tank, which is average, so I'm putting that, marking that side. Tyres, 2mm good, 3 to 4mm is average, 1 to 2mm is poor. So there's 3 to 4 on the front and 3 to 4 on the back, so I'm going to measure that one an average. If you get a tread that's 1 to 2mm, the legal limit for a 50cc and above is 1mm. Below 50cc, you just have to have a visible tread on the tyre, but if you have a 50 and above, you must have 1mm across 3/4 of the tyre. In this instance I've got 3 to 4, so I'm going to mark that one average. Sprockets, no sign of wear is average, sign of wear, hook teeth is poor. So I checked the sprockets and the sprockets were fine, I'm going to put average. Brake pads new, good, worn but lots of pad remaining is average, less than 2mm left is poor. Pads are new, so I'm going to put good. Keys, spare key, same key equals ignition, of fuel and set. C equals average, different keys equal poor. I use the same key to do the ignition, to open the fuel tank and to raise the seat, so that is fuel is average. Petrol tank, so I looked inside the petrol tank, there wasn't any residue in there, so I'm going to say that is average, which is correct. Okay, so engine starts from cold. If not cold, arrange to come back in an hour, which is what I've said. It knocks and rattles equals poor, but if it starts okay, it equals average. Electrics, switch on the lights, dipped, full beam indicators, horn, engine cut-off switch, working equals average, not working equals poor. Again, this one was average. And oil, coolant leaks, poor. So there aren't any coolant. There aren't any coolant leaks on here, so it is average. So out of all of this, I've identified that the poor, there was only one poor part of it, and that was the forks, and they slightly leak, so need attention. Fork is, to do that, it's probably going to take, it's probably about £50 worth of work. You can do them quite easily yourself. If I look at the scores, basically the scores that I've associated with it, I have the majority are average, I have one poor, and I have one good, which means for this, given the Wise Buyer's Guide, is the average is £750. Because there is a poor version, there is a poor for the forks, and I know I'm going to have to spend 50, probably £80 getting that sorted. I'm going to take 50 to £80 off, and that's basically as easy as it gets. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to put that Excel spreadsheet on in the comments section or on the description section, so you can download and see exactly how I'm building those scores up. All the information should be on the sheet, and I hope that's been of some use to you. You take it easy out there. Good luck to the people that are doing their CBTs. Good luck to the people that are buying bikes this season. I shall see you on the road without a shadow of a doubt. Take care of yourself. GTS Garage out.